guys, how you doing? It's Cole Cabana, and you are watching the Sports... No, that's not right. You are watching the No. Oh, it's so good to say this word again. You are watching the Wrestling Roundtable. Enjoy. I know I am.
Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. Joining our panel once again is our core. To my right, which is your left, Lawrence Haber, and Brett Simonello as well. To my left, which is your right, Rodney LeConte. We're going to talk about some of the funniest and least funniest moments in wrestling. Now, we are going to divide this up because longtime viewers of the show may know we have a sick sense of humor a lot of the time. So this will be divided up into stuff that was supposed to be funny and stuff that wasn't. But I do want to start off with a question because in the pre-show to WrestleMania, Blank Vanilla X, whatever the hell his name is, said that it's a combination of drama and athleticism and comedy. Isn't that too in your face that we're fake? My question really is, does comedy have a place in wrestling, and what is it?
First of all, you should never promote that you have comedy, because then it's not funny. How often do you hear a comedian come out and be like, tonight we're going to have a great night of comedy, and then start telling jokes?
Their whole point is they're a variety show now. They're entertainment. They have something for everybody. They have drama, they have action, they have comedy.
Japanese acrobats spinning plates.
Comedy has maybe a certain place, whether it's intentional or unintentional, but it should be a very small place that shouldn't be forced onto us.
It's too much drama. It's a break.
Not enough.
A break from the action. You got this Undertaker Shawn Michaels thing, then you got the heavyweight championship match. A little short segment, anything, it helps.
And you know short. But the thing about comedy is, you said to me years ago, and I think it's absolutely right, wrestling needs to be goofy sometimes. Especially when we were growing up, when people were much more free to be their characters and they were a lot more bright, it was almost as if half the time they were kind of winking at the audience, and that may have been okay, but now it's just too in your face. They're saying the word comedy. It should definitely be a part of the show, I think, but that just breaks the fourth wall to me. But some moments that were funny, intentionally.
And the NWO parodied the Horsemen. It really didn't paint them in a light where you wanted to see our heroes come in.
Of course it did. I don't understand why there was such a problem with that, especially from the people at the time. The problem, of course, really was that they didn't tell them they were going to do that. But the real problem is that they didn't give them revenge and they didn't get their blow-off. That's what heels are supposed to do. They're supposed to be assholes, and that's what they were. They were disrespecting this legend a week after.
Right, the week after, what they were parodying was supposed to be this big dramatic thing that you couldn't possibly make fun of that, and then they did. It was still funny.
The Big Wiggle by Norman Smiley. Before it was overdone, when he first started doing it, he had the crowd on his side. Pretty sure he was a heel at the time, but just the whole thing of a wrestler doing this in the middle of a match.
And him, of all people.
Exactly. It was Norman Smiley.
Yeah, it was a great wrestler,
like
too.
Warren Moon.
No one ever remembers when he won the backyard title on Thunder. It was when he was running around with Ralphus. I was doing the Screaming Norman thing, and he went into a kid's backyard in some skit and pinned the kid with a quarter Nelson and took the belt and he ran away.
I'm sorry, was that WCW or something? Anyway.
See, that's when comedy doesn't work.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Crickets. At the ROH taping at the ECW arena, Dark City Fight Club sent Alex Payne for a flight. Hilarious stuff.
The gold standard currently has to be Santino Marella.
My paisan.
The guy seems to be one of those people that almost come up with their own stuff, aren't restricted so much with this bland vanilla Hollywood writing. He seems like the kind of creative guy that just comes up with the most ridiculous stuff, like telling the director of Stone Cold's movie that the gun should have been real so he could have shot himself.
During the Attitude Era, where there's a skit with Val Venus and Big Show, and they're both in the bathroom. And Val Venus looks over to the Big Show. Well, they call you the Big Show?
You know how many times you've made me almost piss on myself by saying that at a urinal?
Yeah.
But speaking of pissing yourself, that's what McMahon did when Austin kidnapped him. But the month before, when Austin attacked McMahon in the hospital bed,
God,
that whole night, which ran that long story of coming back to McMahon in the hospital, it's been overplayed to death since then.
Right.
But the first time when McFoley was trying to suck up to him and the sock showed
Debut
up,
of Sacco.
get out of here!
Eugene and Triple H on a trampoline. That's
It was a big blow up castle. Triple
Whatever.
H
The
doing
visual
a lot of,
alone.
He was really funny, and everything he did was great and perfect, then they just didn't do anything with it.
One of my favorite Santino moments, he was with Rey Mysterio, and he was making fun of people that wear masks. He said there's two types of people that wear masks, the ugly people and the Batman, and you are not Batman.
Whoa, Batman says it was us. We have the delirious. Was it a T60 Batman? He was in a Robin. He was in a board. And he was trying to do this with toe with board. Well, no way about it. What was going to be? And Robin again. And they're stuck him in a bed. And then we can show him commentating on us. We're delirious. All making it up. And it was delirious. And it was so weird. I was trying to be a boss. But I got myself. What was that?
The fuck was that?
Okay.
I don't think we should mention masked wrestlers anymore, but
It was my fault.
It was the same show McMahon pissed his pants on when Austin had McMahon
I
captured.
just pissed my pants. What are you talking about?
Austin had McMahon in the back, and he made him oink like a pig. And that part was like, oink.
That's the stuff that's supposed to be funny. What about the stuff that wasn't supposed to be funny, but we laughed our asses off with?
Jake the Snake.
Well, that's the big one, isn't it? Jake the Snake, since what, 1996, has provided us with a consistent line
Many moments.
showing up completely drunk
The
at an
Great
indie
Saga.
show. He couldn't even take the DDT. He just plops forward. That guy got all pissed off.
Oh,
and then
Alcoholics are funny.
let's not forget taking the woman's hands and rubbing it on his chest and the phallic
The
snake.
Phoenix.
You want
Yeah.
Blackjack guy got one of those
Okay,
too.
SummerSlam 04, when Undertaker fought JBL, and Undertaker's on top of the limo, and he slipped on like blood or something like that. I've never laughed so hard at wrestling ever.
I've never seen you laugh so hard, period. You fell out of your
I
chair.
gotta thank YouTube because YouTube has provided us not only with our format for our show, but also some stuff that I've never seen before, such as Gene Okerlund interviews with Ken Patera in particular,
Dr.
David
David
Schultz.
Schultz. Hogan, you're a woman.
I went to town looking for a woman.
Well, if we're gonna mention YouTube and stuff that's unintentionally funny, we have to mention the great Botchamania
Yeah,
series by
what those
Matthew,
guys do.
showing all these supposed professionals like these dipshit backyard wrestlers in CZW with trees in the background and a U-Haul truck trying to set up a table for like half an hour, and then it doesn't even work, and then they miss the table. Stuff like that is hilarious. He does a really wonderful job. I have to give Matthew credit for that.
Guess I'm one of those people with the sixth sense of humor, but recently on SmackDown during the Road to WrestleMania Access Tour, they had the Undertaker's graveyard as one of the things that fans can visit, and they had all of his lost soul tombstones. So Jerry Lawler decides to go, and there's the Big Boss Man's tombstone in the Undertaker's graveyard.
When you go back and watch some of these old gimmicks that are really cheesy, the one that sticks out to me the most is Heel Doink the Clown, because they're trying to sell he set up a banana peel and Bob Backlund almost tripped on it and he splashed Marty Jannetty with water. It's like the cheesiest.
It worked for Stephen King, but maybe not for Vince McMahon to have an evil clown. Akeem, the African dream.
Oh my god. It was supposed to be funny. But,
Dude, he's a giant soul bro.
and he's got a manager as a pimp. And they go on Arsenio Hall, and Slick says that Akeem is going to be the first black world champion. That was beautiful. But hopefully you think this segment was too. We're going to move on to some of the least funniest moments, however, when we come back.
Your reaction to an Undertaker Spirit Edge at SummerSlam now?
Didn't I get up and walk away?
Yeah, you were what the fuck?
Eric reactions.
We should talk about Harden losing at the Royal Rumble. That was good.
That could have been unintentionally when Vader falls off the ring apron on his comeback match and he's never seen again.
He's like shoots on YouTube. People like nobody cares about it. It's just nobody. Everyone's just like.
What shoes?
It's just like it's a like,
What you talking about?
like the Iron Sheik. No, I'm not talking about this context. I mean, I forget.
This is called living the legend. Because I am a limousine ride, jet flying, kid stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun. Woo!
Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. We just talked about some of the funniest, intentionally and unintentionally, moments in wrestling, but there's always another side of the story, maybe more sides of the story, but this is the least funniest moments. What were some of the least funniest things in wrestling, Chris?
Chikara, I just don't get it. It's supposed to be a big comedy promotion where it's these ants over here and these guys are Los Ice Cream. Get it? Because ants will go after your ice cream or something. It's terrible.
Well, the thing
It's
about
awful.
the thing about Chikara is their audience always prefaces telling new people about it with, it's not for everybody. It clearly isn't. They do the kind of things that sound ridiculous on paper, like it'd be a funny Mad Magazine segment, but then when you actually see that the ice cream bumped into the sprinkles like it's thumbtacks, you're like, I can't believe they fucking did that. And the Japanese promotions are no better. Hustle and DDT do their super gay shit, and the Invisible Man and Mecha Mummy. That just, people say, well, it's for people who don't take wrestling too seriously, but it's too much for me. What do you think, Lawrence? It's not funny.
Forced funny of DX in 2006.
Everything they did was horrible.
Poopy from the ceiling.
Everything was
Come
changed.
on.
They changed McMahon's voice.
A DX logo on the building.
Yeah.
And that was
They
funny,
sent the
guys.
Spirit Squad to
They slapped
OVW.
us.
It's funny. Look, they're funny.
That
Those
had the
two.
stupidest segment I've ever seen. In the parking lot when they're having a barbecue because they left the building and Triple H and Candice Michelle are pretending to get head from, oh, look, a woman popped up from underneath the table. But the camera was in such a place that the whole time you could see they weren't getting anything done and they're obviously acting with the stupid mustard and, the fucking good, the bad, and the ugly with Jonathan Coachman, where they
the
actually
hay
had the
thing.
tumbleweed, and then Big Dick Johnson, which is never funny.
That's never funny.
What? What? That word. What?
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 What? You don't think that Austin ruining everybody's promos for 3 years afterwards is funny?
What?
They still do it.
It's still-
It's
yeah,
horrible.
it's still
It
good.
ruined promos. I think Austin even apologized for it or something like that. I didn't like it. It was funny maybe the first time with the him and Rock segment, but after that,
They didn't do it during Austin's entire induction speech. What the hell happened there?
Wow.
Gilbert is one of those things that was funny once, the first time, and then it dragged on. And it's just like, this is going on for years. Along those lines, I think Dude Love and Screamin' Norman Smiley also fall in there. They just have this weird, goofy sense of humor. Like Undertaker's, when he was Underbiker, in the ring with Spanky, and he's the singing telegram. He's really, really sorry. It was just stupid. Canyon's dressed up as Boy George. Outdated humor, like Roddy Piper's whole thing. Me, Cyndi Lauper, and Bill Clinton, and you're so dating yourself.
Rosie O'Donnell versus Donald Trump.
oh boy.
Wow, that was
First
brutal
of all-
to sit through.
I don't think I even sat through it.
The music for Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell had my favorite
It was
entrance
amazing.
theme. Come on, you don't think Ace Steel dressed up like Donald Trump is at least so bad it's funny?
Not
We
really.
haven't mentioned a lot of Mick Foley, surprisingly enough, because I never thought that This Is Your Life Rock shit was funny
Didn't
at
they get like
all.
the highest rating in Raw?
Ever.
Next to-
It was just Rock saying all his catchphrases.
Well, it wasn't funny at the time to me either. And as much as people were into the Rock and Sock and the Rock and all that other shit, it just dragged on and on. And when Foley, a year later, became Commissioner Foley, it's almost like he was completely going against what made us like him in the first place. He was this hardcore guy who cut these really outlandish, serious promos. He had this unique look. And now he cuts his hair and he's really fat, looking like a caveman, doing stupid puppies jokes and his thumbs up and the cheap pops. It really put a bad taste in my mouth as such a Mick Foley fan.
A lot of recent Cena stuff. I really don't think him trying to be funny. Everything after 05 on, like Lawrence put it this way, he was like the kid in the class who tries really hard to be cool but just comes off
He's
like
really-
a douchebag.
He's not funny, and
No.
it's just so obvious that he's reading it off of a card. Like with The Rock, you felt like he was kind of
Oh,
a
yeah.
natural, cool
The Rock
guy.
is a showman.
But Cena just looks like he's like reading it off of his hand.
But for doing something so fucking lame as spray painting the word poopy on JBL's limo, that's at least reverse entertainment to me.
yeah.
The Kiss My Ass Club in all its incarnations. Nobody thinks it's funny, and they use it for like big angles, like when Undertaker turned heel. Yeah, kiss my ass, you're gonna be fired. And they do it every year. They bring this thing back, and it's just never fun.
That's just Vince getting his rocks off.
Well, we mentioned comedy promotions, and we were talking about women's wrestling before and how things like Glow or WOW or Dangerous Women of Wrestling kind of seep in and put a bad stain on serious women's wrestling. Do comedy promotions do this as well to standard wrestling, or is it so niche that it doesn't even
I
affect
think it's
it?
so niche it doesn't affect it.
Yeah.
What about matches? What were some of the funniest matches?
Reverse funny, we talked about it before, Triple H and Steiner. I can always get a kick out of that match, especially your reaction when Steiner tripped after the butterfly suplex.
Ebasan versus Colt Cabana in Ring of Honor, which is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It was ridiculous.
Colt Cabana versus Delirious from Ring of Honor 5th Year Festival. When Colt Cabana came out as Big Daddy.
And they were throwing the baby
Babies,
around.
yeah.
That's very regional humor. But we did mention Colt Cabana. He is somewhat of the standard of a comedy wrestler because I know a lot of people won't buy a comedy wrestler as a contender, like a world title, intercontinental, maybe they can sacrifice that. But Cabana, he combines scientific wrestling and comedy wrestling in such a way that it's almost unique. I remember he fought Nigel McGuinness in Dayton, Ohio at the 3rd anniversary show a few years ago. And it was one of the most entertaining from start to finish matches I had seen because they combined, not over the top ridiculous wedgie spots or anything, but real technical wrestling in there with some goofy visuals and screaming, some funny things. It was really entertaining. So maybe comedy wrestlers have a lot more potential. There are some really good wrestlers who can do a lot of funny stuff too, as opposed to just relying on it as a crutch. But that's going to wrap it up for some of the least funniest moments for the Wrestling Roundtable. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you check out WrestlingRoundtable.com as well to stay in tune with the show and what's going on. Next time, we're going to be talking about the Owen Hart death. It's the 10th anniversary coming up in May. 10 years later, what are our thoughts on Owen Hart's death? We're also going to be talking soon about Brock and his latest UFC happenings, the fight with Randy Couture, and his upcoming fight with Frank Mir to unify the titles at UFC 100, and the best and worst technical wrestlers as well. So for the panel, Daisy Hayes from Ring of Honor Wrestling, check out ROHWrestling.com, Brett Simonello, Rodney LeConte, Lawrence Haber, Chris Harris. I'm your host, Eric Santamaria. Thank you and join us next time.
What?